In the bustling city of Enugu, where vibrant markets and colorful festivities filled the air with laughter and song, Princess Adaku walked with her head held high, despite the burden she carried. Born into royalty, she was the apple of King Okafor's eye, known for her grace, beauty, and a smile that could light up the gloomiest day. Yet, lurking beneath the surface of her royal facade was a painful secret. Princess Adaku suffered from epilepsy. The people of Enugu, with their rich traditions and colorful cultures, often viewed those who were different with suspicion and disdain. Adaku's condition, characterized by sudden seizures, made her an easy target for mockery. Whispers followed her like shadows, and her laughter often masked the hurt that lingered in her heart. At festivals, where the air was thick with excitement and joy, she would often find herself alone, separated from the laughter of her peers. One fateful day, during the grand festival of the harvest, a joyful gathering took place in the city square. Stalls adorned with vibrant fabrics and wares beckoned villagers and travelers alike. Drummers set the rhythm for dancers who twirled under the sun, their movements a celebration of life and unity. Amidst the revelry, Adaku stood on the sidelines, her eyes sparkling with longing as she watched the others join in the festivities. Suddenly, as laughter echoed around her, a wave of dizziness washed over Adaku. She tried to steady herself, but the world spun as the familiar sensation of an impending seizure gripped her. The moment her knees buckled and she fell to the ground, the laughter turned into a cacophony of gasps. The festival's music faded as eyes turned toward the princess, some filled with concern, but many filled with mocking glee. "Look at the princess! Even the gods do not want her to dance," a voice jeered from the crowd, followed by laughter that pierced through Adaku's soul. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the ground would swallow her whole, her body shaking in the throes of the seizure. As the laughter continued, her heart ached, not just from the humiliation but from the realization that no one, not even her father, could protect her from the cruelty of the world. After what felt like an eternity, the seizure passed, leaving Adaku disoriented and vulnerable. The crowd, initially filled with shock, erupted into laughter once more, their faces twisted in mockery. In that moment, Adaku's world shattered. She struggled to her feet, the humiliation burning in her cheeks. A few kind souls rushed forward to help her, but the damage was done. The mocking voices echoed in her ears, drowning out any comfort they offered. King Okafor, who had been mingling with the village elders, rushed to his daughter's side, his face etched with worry. "Adaku, my precious daughter, are you all right?" he asked, his voice a blend of concern and authority. But the moment was tainted, the laughter continued, ringing in her ears like a relentless drumbeat. "Why must the gods punish us with a cursed princess?" another voice called out, as the crowd began to disperse, leaving Adaku feeling more alone than ever. The king's face hardened, but there was little he could do. The damage to Adaku's heart was profound, and in her mind, the seeds of doubt and loneliness began to take root. As night fell over Enugu, the festival lights flickered against the darkening sky. Adaku retreated to her chambers, where the silence was deafening. She stared into the mirror, her reflection a haunting reminder of the cruel reality she faced. No amount of royal privilege could shield her from the piercing arrows of mockery. Tears streamed down her face, and in that moment, she vowed to find a way to be free from the laughter that haunted her. Little did she know, the journey ahead would lead her to a heartwarming connection that would challenge everything she believed about love, acceptance, and her worth. Days passed in the city of Enugu, and the echoes of the festival lingered in Adaku's mind like a haunting melody. The laughter that had surrounded her during the celebrations now felt like a distant dream, replaced by a heavy silence that wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Though her father, King Okafor, made every effort to comfort her, she could sense the unease in his heart. The harsh realities of her condition weighed heavily on them both, casting a shadow over their once unbreakable bond. Determined to escape the confines of the palace and the mocking voices that still reverberated in her mind, Adaku often found solace in the gardens that surrounded her home. Here, amidst the fragrant blossoms and the gentle rustle of leaves, she could pretend that the world outside did not exist. Yet, the feeling of isolation consumed her, and it was during one of these solitary walks that her life began to change. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and purple, Adaku wandered deeper into the lush gardens than she ever had before. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine, and the sound of birds chirping created a symphony that momentarily lifted her spirits. However, her heart felt heavy with a loneliness that pressed down upon her like a stone. Suddenly, she heard a soft melody drifting through the air, capturing her attention. It was a sweet, soulful sound, unlike anything she had ever heard before. Intrigued, Adaku followed the sound, her feet leading her to a small clearing shaded by towering palm trees. There, sitting on a fallen log, was a young man with a weathered straw hat tilted slightly over his brow. His hands danced over a wooden flute, coaxing notes that seemed to intertwine with the gentle breeze. Adaku stood frozen, captivated by the sight. The man was not just a musician, he was a palm wine tapper named Amadi, known in the village for his friendly demeanor and his knack for storytelling. His laughter echoed through the city, and his carefree spirit was something many admired. But what truly enchanted Adaku was the way he played, as if the music poured from his very soul. As the last note lingered in the air, Amadi noticed her standing there, a look of surprise crossing his face. He stopped playing and smiled warmly, his eyes sparkling with genuine kindness. "I didn't know I had an audience," he said, his voice rich and soothing. "What brings a princess like you to this secluded spot?" Adaku felt a blush rise to her cheeks. "I came to find some peace away from the palace," she admitted, her heart racing. I'm tired of the laughter and the mocking." Amadi's expression softened as he moved closer, sensing the weight of her words. "You have a beautiful presence, princess. I cannot understand the burdens you carry, but I know music has a way of healing. Would you like to join me? I can teach you to play." Surprised by his invitation, Adaku hesitated, unsure of what to say. She had always felt like an outsider, especially around others her age, but there was something genuine in Amadi's offer that stirred something within her. "I would like that," she finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As they sat together, Amadi introduced her to the flute, showing her how to hold it and the simplest melodies to play. Although she stumbled at first, the music began to flow through her, filling the gaps left by loneliness and despair. For the first time in a long time, Adaku felt a spark of joy flicker within her. "Your voice is beautiful," Amadi said as she played a simple tune. "You should sing. The world deserves to hear you." Adaku hesitated, her heart sinking at the thought. "But what if they laugh?" she asked, vulnerability evident in her voice. "What if I fail?" "Then we'll laugh together," he replied with a playful grin. "You're not alone anymore, princess. I'm here to help you find your voice." His words resonated deeply within her, and with every note they played together, Adaku felt a shift. The oppressive weight of her fears began to lift, replaced by a burgeoning friendship that blossomed between them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the clearing, Adaku realized that for the first time, she felt seen, not as a princess burdened by her condition, but as a person with dreams and a voice worth hearing. In the days that followed, Adaku and Amadi met in secret, hidden away from the judgmental eyes of the palace and the village. Each encounter brought them closer, weaving a tapestry of friendship and shared dreams. Amadi taught her to embrace her singing, encouraging her to unleash the melody that had long been trapped inside her. Their laughter and music filled the air, creating a sanctuary where Adaku could finally be herself, free from the weight of societal expectations. In Amadi's presence, the laughter that once haunted her transformed into a melody of hope and acceptance. Together, they painted a new reality where love and friendship triumphed over mockery and scorn. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, the shadows of Adaku's royal obligations loomed closer. While her heart soared with newfound joy, the world outside continued to turn, and the pressures of her status began to rear their ugly heads. She knew the love blossoming between her and Amadi would soon face the scrutiny of the royal court and the whispers of the villagers. Still, the strength she found in their bond fortified her spirit. Little did she know, the journey ahead would challenge their love in ways they had yet to imagine, pushing the boundaries of acceptance and loyalty. As weeks passed, the bond between Adaku and Amadi deepened, blossoming into a beautiful friendship marked by shared laughter and the sweetness of music. They spent countless hours in their secret clearing, a sanctuary from the expectations of the royal palace and the harsh realities of the world outside. Adaku's heart felt lighter, and the echoes of mockery began to fade, replaced by the joy of creating melodies together. Amadi was not just a teacher, he became her confidant and friend, someone who saw beyond the title of princess and recognized the woman beneath. He admired her strength, her courage in the face of adversity, and her exquisite singing voice that, until now, had remained hidden from the world. Each time she sang, a new part of her emerged, a facet of her identity that had long been suppressed by her condition and the judgment of others. One sun-drenched afternoon, Amadi set down his flute and turned to her, his eyes filled with encouragement. "You must share your voice with the world, Adaku. You have a gift that deserves to be heard. Let it soar, like the birds in the sky." Adaku's heart raced at the thought. But what if they mock me again? What if I fail? The fear of ridicule still lingered, but there was also a flicker of hope ignited by Amadi's unwavering belief in her. Every great singer faced doubt, even the stars of the land. You cannot let fear stifle your talent. Music is meant to be shared, to connect us all. Will you try? His voice was gentle but firm, and something in his sincerity urged her to confront her fears. Taking a deep breath, Adaku nodded slowly. "I will try," she said, her voice trembling yet filled with determination. With Amadi by her side, Adaku began practicing her singing more fervently. They experimented with various songs, blending traditional melodies with their own creations. Amadi's encouragement spurred her on, and soon, her voice grew stronger and more confident. The garden, once a backdrop for her loneliness, became alive with the sound of her singing, intertwining with the rustling leaves and the chirping of birds. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Adaku decided to sing a piece that had been passed down through her family, a song that celebrated the beauty of the earth and the joys of love. With every note, she poured her heart into the performance, the melody flowing effortlessly, resonating with the magic of the moment. Amadi listened, captivated, his heart swelling with pride. As she finished, he jumped to his feet, clapping enthusiastically. "That was incredible! You have a voice that can move mountains." Adaku smiled shyly, the praise warming her heart. "You really think so?" she asked, her insecurities creeping back. "I know so. You are a princess, yes, but your voice carries the spirit of the people. You could inspire them, bring joy to their lives." His words filled her with a sense of purpose, and for the first time, she could envision herself standing before an audience, sharing her music with the world. However, amidst the growing excitement of her newfound confidence, a shadow of worry crept into her heart. The reality of her royal status loomed over her like a dark cloud. What would King Okafor say if he found out about her singing? What if he discovered her relationship with a commoner like Amadi? Would he allow her to pursue her dreams, or would he demand she conform to the expectations of royalty? Adaku pondered these questions as she continued her training with Amadi, her heart torn between the freedom of self-expression and the heavy chains of her royal obligations. The days passed, and though her confidence grew, so did her sense of dread. One fateful day, as they practiced their songs under the canopy of the palm trees, they heard the distant sounds of commotion from the village. Curious, they walked to the edge of the clearing, peering out to see what was happening. To their surprise, a crowd had gathered, with villagers buzzing in excitement. "What's going on?" Adaku asked, her heart racing. "Let's find out," Amadi replied, leading the way down the path towards the noise. As they approached the village square, they saw a large stage set up, adorned with vibrant fabrics and colorful banners. The townspeople were eagerly talking amongst themselves, and in the center of the commotion stood a man with a grand voice, announcing a talent competition, a festival of music and performance to celebrate the spirit of the people. "The winner will receive a prize of 1,000 cowries," he proclaimed, and the crowd erupted into cheers. Adaku's heart pounded in her chest. This could be her chance. The thought of performing in front of the entire village sent shivers down her spine, but the allure of sharing her music, of finally being free to express herself, pulled her closer to the stage. "What do you think?" Amadi asked, sensing her excitement. "This is the opportunity you've been waiting for." "But what if I fail?" Adaku whispered, her insecurities bubbling to the surface again. "Then you will learn. And you will grow," he replied earnestly. "You can't let fear hold you back. Besides, I'll be right there with you. You won't be alone." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the village, Adaku felt the pull of the stage more strongly than ever. She envisioned herself singing, her voice carrying over the crowd, breaking the barriers that had confined her for so long. The thought of sharing her music was intoxicating. Taking a deep breath, she turned to Amadi. "I want to do it," she said, her voice trembling but filled with newfound determination. "I want to enter the competition." "Then let's do it!" Amadi exclaimed, beaming with pride. "We'll prepare together, and when the time comes, you will shine." That night, Adaku could hardly sleep. Her dreams were filled with the faces of the villagers, their eyes wide with awe as she sang her heart out. She imagined the melodies flowing freely, her insecurities washed away by the sheer joy of performing. Yet, somewhere deep inside, a nagging doubt lingered. Would her father support her decision? And how would the villagers react, knowing she was a princess who had dared to defy the norm? The next day, they began preparing for the competition. Amadi helped her choose the songs that would resonate most with the crowd, songs that told stories of love, resilience, and hope. Each practice session filled her with more confidence, and soon, Adaku found herself humming tunes as she wandered through the palace, her heart lightening with each note. Yet, as the day of the competition approached, whispers of doubt echoed louder in her mind. She knew she would have to confront her father eventually, to explain her desire to pursue music despite the looming shadows of societal expectations. Would King Okafor understand? Would he accept her dreams, or would he see her as a defiant daughter threatening the royal legacy? As Adaku stood before the mirror in her lavish chamber, she took a moment to reflect. She was more than a princess bound by the chains of tradition, she was a woman with dreams, a voice waiting to be heard. With that thought, she straightened her back, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. "I will speak to him," she resolved, determination coursing through her veins. Little did she know, this would be a turning point not just for her, but for the entire kingdom of Enugu. The time had come to embrace her true self and face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun rose over Enugu, casting golden rays through the palace windows, illuminating the intricate patterns woven into the silk drapes. Adaku stood before the mirror, adjusting the intricate beads in her hair. Today was the day she would confront her father, King Okafor, about her dreams of performing at the village talent competition. A knot tightened in her stomach, but determination pushed her forward. She could no longer hide behind her fears. With a deep breath, she made her way to the king's private chamber. The hallways were lined with portraits of her ancestors, stern faces that seemed to watch her every step. She recalled their legacies, the weight of their expectations heavy on her shoulders. Would they approve of her quest for self-expression, or would they view it as a betrayal of their royal lineage? As she approached the large wooden doors of her father's chamber, her heart raced. She knocked lightly, and after a moment, the voice of her father beckoned her inside. "Enter," he called, his voice deep and commanding. Adaku pushed the door open and stepped into the grand chamber, adorned with opulent furnishings and artifacts that told the story of their dynasty. King Okafor sat behind a large, intricately carved desk, poring over scrolls filled with royal decrees and administrative matters. His brows furrowed in concentration, and for a moment, Adaku hesitated, feeling small and insignificant in the presence of her formidable father. "Ah, Adaku. Come in, my daughter," he said, looking up and motioning for her to approach. "What brings you here today?" Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, gathering her courage. "Father, I wish to speak to you about something important," she began, her voice steady despite the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. King Okafor set aside his scrolls, his expression shifting to one of curiosity. "What is it? Speak freely. There's a talent competition happening in the village, and I want to participate," she said, her heart pounding as she revealed her desire. "I want to sing." For a moment, silence enveloped the room, and she could feel the weight of her words hanging in the air. King Okafor's expression hardened, and she immediately sensed the shift in his demeanor. "A competition?" he repeated, disbelief mingling with disapproval. "Adaku, you are a princess. It is not fitting for you to partake in such frivolities. You have duties and responsibilities that come with your title." "Father," she implored, her voice rising slightly in desperation, "this is important to me. I have been practicing, and I truly believe I can inspire our people. Music has always been a part of our culture, and I want to contribute to it." He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms, his gaze piercing. "Your place is in the palace, not in the marketplace, singing for common folk. You must maintain the dignity of the crown." Adaku felt a wave of disappointment wash over her. "But I want to share my voice, to connect with the people. They see me as a princess, but I am also a woman with dreams and talents." Her heart raced as she spoke, anger and sadness battling within her. King Okafor's brow furrowed, and he raised a hand, silencing her. "You are a royal, Adaku. You cannot forget that. You must think of the reputation of our family and the expectations of our people. What would they say if their princess were to lower herself to such a level?" "Lower myself?" Adaku echoed, the heat rising in her cheeks. "Father, it is not lowering myself to connect with our people. Music is a gift, and I want to share it. It is a way to uplift and inspire." He shook his head, his expression unwavering. "No daughter of mine will perform in public. You have a duty to uphold our family's honor." With those words, the air in the room grew heavy, and Adaku felt a rush of frustration and despair. How could he not see her passion? She had spent so long hiding her talent, stifled by the very expectations he upheld so fiercely. "Father, please," she begged, desperation creeping into her voice. "I am still your daughter. I deserve the chance to pursue my dreams." The king's eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward, his voice low and firm. "Your dreams, my dear, must align with your responsibilities as a princess. If you defy me in this, there will be consequences." Adaku's heart sank at the threat underlying his words. She had never seen her father so resolute in his disapproval, and a part of her shattered at the realization that he would prioritize tradition over her happiness. "I understand," she whispered, turning away to hide the tears welling in her eyes. "I will respect your wishes." As she left the chamber, a heavy cloud of despair settled over her. The dreams she had nurtured felt fragile and vulnerable, like glass about to shatter. She had hoped for her father's support, but now she faced an insurmountable barrier. Outside, she wandered through the palace gardens, the vibrant flowers seeming to mock her sorrow. The laughter and music of the villagers echoed in her ears, a reminder of the connection she longed for but felt increasingly distant from. When she reached their secret clearing, Amadi was already waiting for her, the sound of his flute weaving through the air. He stopped playing when he saw her face, concern etched on his features. "Adaku, what's wrong?" he asked, moving closer. He said no, she replied, her voice trembling. "My father doesn't want me to participate in the competition. He believes it is beneath me. I don't know what to do, Amadi." Amadi's eyes widened in disbelief. "But this is your chance. You've worked so hard, and you have a gift. You can't let him take that away from you." "I don't have a choice," Adaku said, despair creeping into her voice. "He is the king, and I am just a princess bound by duty. If I go against him, it will only bring shame to our family. I can't do that." "But what about your happiness? What about your voice?" Amadi challenged gently. "You can't silence yourself for the sake of tradition. This is about you, Adaku. You deserve to be heard." Her heart ached at his words. "I know, but he is my father. I have to respect his wishes, even if it means sacrificing my dreams. I don't want to disappoint him." Amadi reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "You won't disappoint him by following your heart. Perhaps if he sees how much this means to you, he might understand." Adaku shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "What if he never does? What if he only sees me as a princess and not as Adaku?" The weight of her emotions crashed down upon her, and she felt vulnerable in a way she hadn't anticipated. She wanted to be free, to express herself without fear, but the burden of royalty loomed over her like a shadow. "Then you will show him," Amadi said, determination filling his voice. "You will perform at the competition, and you will shine. You can't let fear dictate your choices." Adaku looked into Amadi's eyes, seeing the conviction there. The thought of defying her father filled her with anxiety, but the thought of denying her true self felt even worse. For the first time, she considered that perhaps there was a way to honor both her heart and her family. "Maybe you're right," she said, her voice quivering but resolute. "I will perform. I will show my father that I am worthy of my dreams." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Adaku felt a renewed sense of hope ignite within her. She could not predict the consequences of her actions, but the thought of silencing her voice forever felt more daunting than any potential fallout. Together with Amadi, she began to prepare for the competition, working harder than ever before. The music they created echoed through the clearing, intertwining their spirits and bolstering Adaku's resolve. She would face the king and prove that her voice was not a threat to the crown, but a gift that could unite and inspire her people. The day of the competition drew closer, and with it, the anticipation and dread swirled within her like a tempest. Yet, for the first time in a long while, Adaku felt alive, driven by the desire to carve her own path. She would embrace her identity, her music, and the love she had found in Amadi. Little did she know, the true test of her spirit was just around the corner, waiting to challenge everything she had come to understand about love, loyalty, and what it meant to be a true princess. The day of the talent competition arrived, bringing with it a palpable buzz of excitement that enveloped the village of Enugu. Colorful banners adorned the streets, fluttering in the gentle breeze as villagers dressed in their finest attire made their way to the central square. Music filled the air, blending with the aroma of delicious street food being prepared by eager vendors. Adaku felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety as she and Amadi approached the venue. The stage, a large wooden structure draped in vibrant cloth, stood proudly at the center of the square. It was surrounded by a throng of villagers, all chatting and laughing, their faces lit with anticipation. Adaku's heart raced, each beat echoing her fears and dreams in equal measure. Amadi squeezed her hand gently, offering silent support as they maneuvered through the crowd. "Remember, this is your moment. Just focus on the music and the connection you want to create with the people," he whispered, his voice a calming presence amidst her swirling thoughts. As they reached the edge of the stage, Adaku caught sight of the other contestants. A variety of performers were gathering, each with their unique talents: dancers, drummers, and singers. The vibrant tapestry of artistry reminded her of the richness of their culture, and for a moment, her worries faded. "Look at them," Amadi said, nodding towards the performers. "Everyone is here to celebrate creativity. You belong here, Adaku. Just think about sharing your voice." Adaku nodded, but the weight of her father's earlier disapproval lingered in her mind. She was still torn between her duty to the crown and her desire to express herself freely. As she watched the first contestant take the stage, the cheers from the crowd echoed in her ears, filling her with both hope and trepidation. The performer, a young man with a mesmerizing voice, sang a soulful melody that captivated the audience. Adaku's heart swelled with admiration as the crowd responded with thunderous applause. This was what she wanted, to connect with the people through her music, to inspire them just as this singer had. As the performances continued, Adaku felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her. Soon, it would be her turn. The thought of stepping onto that stage, with all eyes on her, sent shivers down her spine. What if she faltered? What if the crowd laughed, just as they had in the past? "Adaku," Amadi said, pulling her out of her thoughts. "You're up next. Just remember why you're doing this. You're here to sing, to share your heart. No matter what happens, I believe in you." With those words, she nodded, trying to shake off the fear that threatened to engulf her. She took a deep breath, focusing on the rhythm of her heart, the beat urging her to move forward. As she stepped onto the stage, the world outside faded, and all that remained was the intimate connection between her and the audience. The stage lights glimmered, illuminating her as she took center stage. The crowd grew silent, their expectant gazes fixed upon her. Adaku felt a rush of adrenaline course through her veins, a blend of excitement and anxiety that electrified her senses. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice slightly shaky but growing steadier with each passing second. "I am Princess Adaku of Enugu, and today, I want to share with you a piece of my heart through music." A murmur rippled through the crowd as they recognized her title. Adaku could feel their curiosity, mixed with skepticism. She knew she had to prove herself, to show them that she was more than just a princess. She was a voice yearning to be heard. As she began to sing the traditional melody that celebrated love and the beauty of their land, something magical happened. The first notes flowed from her lips, and she felt an inexplicable connection to the audience. The melody wrapped around her like a warm embrace, soothing her fears and igniting her spirit. With each verse, she poured her soul into the performance. The crowd responded, their faces lighting up with recognition and joy. Adaku could see the transformation in their expressions, the skepticism melted away, replaced by appreciation and admiration. They were not merely spectators, they were participants in her journey, sharing in the moment of vulnerability and strength. As she reached the chorus, she glanced at Amadi, who stood at the edge of the stage, his eyes shimmering with pride and encouragement. Their connection fueled her passion, and she let the music carry her away, her voice soaring higher and higher. The audience began to sway, caught up in the rhythm of her song, clapping and singing along. The energy in the square was electric, and for the first time, Adaku felt truly free. She no longer saw herself as a princess bound by duty. She was a woman, an artist, a soul reaching out to touch others with her voice. The fears that had haunted her moments ago faded into the background, replaced by an overwhelming sense of belonging. As she concluded her performance, the crowd erupted into cheers, applause ringing out like thunder. Adaku beamed, her heart swelling with joy. She had done it, she had faced her fears and shared her voice with the world. But just as she stepped back, her exhilaration was cut short as she spotted a familiar figure emerging from the crowd. King Okafor stood at the edge of the square, his expression unreadable, a storm brewing in his eyes. The realization hit her like a cold wave. Her father had witnessed her defiance. The cheers of the crowd faded into a dull roar in Adaku's ears as she locked eyes with her father. King Okafor's presence loomed large, a figure of authority that cut through her moment of triumph like a knife. The excitement around her dissipated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread. She stepped off the stage, the exhilaration of her performance now tainted by the impending confrontation. Amadi reached for her hand, sensing her tension. "You did beautifully," he said, but his smile faded as he noticed the way her gaze remained fixed on her father. King Okafor approached, his demeanor a mix of disappointment and anger. The villagers parted for him, their excitement shifting to a tense anticipation. Adaku felt the weight of their gazes, a blend of admiration and concern. She knew the moment had come to face the repercussions of her actions. "Adaku," the king said, his voice low and steady, yet laced with authority. "We need to talk. Now." The crowd murmured, intrigued by the royal confrontation. Adaku's heart raced as she followed her father, Amadi staying close by her side, a silent pillar of support. They moved away from the square, into a quieter part of the village where the chatter of the festival faded into the background. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" King Okafor asked once they were out of earshot. His voice was controlled, but the underlying fury was unmistakable. "I was sharing my voice, father. I was." "You were defying me," he interjected, his expression darkening. "You put our family's reputation at stake for a fleeting moment of joy. You embarrassed me in front of the entire village." Adaku's heart sank at his words. "I wasn't trying to embarrass you. I wanted to connect with our people, to show them that a princess can also have a voice. A princess has responsibilities," he thundered, his fists clenched. "You cannot allow your emotions to lead you astray. You are a royal. You must think of our lineage, our legacy. Why can't I think of my happiness, father? Why must I sacrifice my dreams for the sake of tradition?" Her voice trembled with the weight of her frustration. "I wanted to inspire the people, to show them that there's more to life than duty. Can't you see that?" King Okafor's face softened for a brief moment, and she caught a glimpse of the man beneath the kingly facade. But it vanished just as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the impenetrable armor he wore as ruler of the land. "You are my daughter, and you will respect my authority. This behavior cannot continue. If you defy me again, there will be consequences," he warned, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Consequences?" Adaku echoed, feeling anger and betrayal rising within her. "You threaten me for expressing who I am? For trying to make a connection with the people?" He stepped closer, his voice lowering to a whisper that carried the weight of their familial bond. "Adaku, I do this to protect you. The world can be cruel, and as a princess, you must be vigilant. Your actions have consequences, not just for you, but for our entire family." "Protect me from what? From living my life? From pursuing my passions?" she countered, frustration lacing her words. "You don't understand me at all, father. I am more than just a princess, I am a woman with dreams and desires." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick with tension. Adaku felt her heart aching, torn between her love for her father and her longing for freedom. She had fought so hard to step into her own light, but her father's shadow loomed larger than ever. Adaku, listen to me, he began again, his voice softer but still firm. The people look to you as their leader, their princess. They need you to be strong, to embody the ideals of our family. If you stray from that path, it could create chaos. I cannot allow it. Adaku's heart pounded in her chest. So you would have me stifle my voice, pretend I'm someone I'm not, just to maintain the image of a perfect princess? Father, that's not strength, that's fear. Real strength is about being true to oneself and inspiring others to do the same. Your idealism will not save you from the consequences of your actions, King Okafor said sharply, his tone hardening once more. You are not living in a fairy tale, Adaku. You are in a world governed by expectations and responsibilities. If you cannot embrace that reality, then you are in grave danger. Adaku felt her anger flare. What danger, father? The danger of living my life as I choose? The danger of being true to who I am? She stepped back, shaking her head. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to be a prisoner of your expectations. Then you are choosing a dangerous path, one that could lead to disgrace for our family, he replied, his voice lowering to a warning tone. I will not stand idly by while you undermine our legacy. If you continue this way, I will have no choice but to take action. The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud, darkening the space between them. Adaku felt a chill creep down her spine. What action? What will you do? Let's just say there are rules that must be upheld, and if you cannot comply with them, you may find yourself stripped of your title and privileges. You would not only bring shame upon yourself but also upon our family. Do you truly wish to face such consequences? He looked at her, and in that moment, she saw the power he wielded, the authority he would not hesitate to use. Adaku's heart raced as she considered his words. The very idea of losing her title, her home, her place in the royal family sent shivers through her. She had fought so hard to express herself, to claim her identity, but the price seemed unbearable. Father, please don't do this, she said, her voice trembling. I want to honor our family, but I also want to be true to myself. I am your daughter, not just your title. I deserve to be more than a reflection of your expectations. Your duty is to your family, Adaku, he reiterated, his voice firm and resolute. Remember that. If you can't, you will learn that the world is unforgiving. You will face the consequences of your choices. As he turned to leave, Adaku felt a sense of helplessness wash over her. She was trapped between her dreams and the weight of her father's expectations. Father, she called after him, desperation clawing at her heart. You can't just walk away. I need you to understand. But he paused, glancing over his shoulder, his expression inscrutable. I have given you a chance to reconsider. Think carefully, Adaku. I do not wish to see my daughter fail, but I will not tolerate rebellion against the crown. With that, he strode away, leaving Adaku standing in the dimming light of dusk. The vibrant sounds of the festival faded into a haunting silence as she grappled with the enormity of her father's words. Her heart felt heavy, as if the weight of the crown rested upon her, suffocating her spirit. Amadi approached, concern etched on his face. Adaku, are you all right? I saw the way he looked at you. I don't know, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought performing would bring me closer to the people, to my own truth, but now I feel like I've only created a bigger chasm between my father and me. He said if I don't conform, he will strip me of my title. Don't let him take your voice from you, Amadi urged, his eyes filled with earnestness. You were incredible up there. The people saw you for who you are, not just a princess but an artist, a woman with a powerful voice. That matters more than any title. I know, Adaku said, feeling the tears prick at the corners of her eyes. But he doesn't understand that. All he sees is the duty and the expectations. I can't change who I am to fit into a mold he's created. Then don't, Amadi replied, his voice steady and reassuring. You don't have to choose between your identity and your family. There must be a way to find a balance. You are worthy of both. Maybe, she whispered, uncertainty creeping in. But what if I lose everything I hold dear? Sometimes we must risk losing something to find out what truly matters, Amadi said softly, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this. I will support you, whatever you decide. Adaku felt the warmth of his words seep into her soul, reminding her of the love they had forged. With Amadi by her side, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her once more. She couldn't ignore her father's warnings, but she also couldn't allow fear to dictate her choices. Maybe I can still make my father see, she said slowly, determination flooding her veins. I can find a way to show him that my voice is not a threat, but a gift. Exactly, Amadi said, a smile breaking across his face. Let's brainstorm. You can plan a performance that highlights the beauty of your identity and our culture, a way to honor your father while staying true to yourself. As they walked back toward the square, Adaku felt a surge of newfound purpose. The night was far from over, and the festival continued to pulse with life and energy. She would not let her father's fear dictate her future. Instead, she would embrace her identity and create a space where her voice could flourish. However, deep down, she knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. The path to acceptance was fraught with challenges, and the stakes were higher than ever. But for the first time, Adaku felt emboldened by the possibility of change, a chance to carve her own destiny amidst the expectations of her royal lineage. As the sounds of laughter and music filled the air around her, Adaku took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. She was ready to fight for her dreams, to challenge the constraints of her upbringing, and to rise as the woman she was destined to be. But little did she know, the battle for her voice would reveal deeper truths about love, loyalty, and the sacrifices required to stand strong in the face of adversity. And as the festival continued into the night, shadows loomed over her future, casting doubts that would soon come to a head, testing her resolve in ways she had yet to imagine. The festival thrummed with life as the sun set, casting long shadows across the vibrant square. Villagers danced, their joyous laughter echoing into the night, but Adaku felt a sense of foreboding that dimmed her spirits. She had chosen to embrace her identity, but the repercussions of her father's warning loomed heavy over her. With Amadi by her side, she navigated the lively crowd, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. She had decided to plan a performance that would honor her heritage while expressing her true self. It would be a celebration of identity, a fusion of the traditional and the contemporary, a way to bridge the gap between her royal duties and her passion for music. Adaku, a familiar voice called, breaking her reverie. She turned to see her friend Ifeoma, her bright eyes sparkling with excitement. You were incredible out there. I never knew you could sing like that. Thank you, Ifeoma, Adaku replied, a smile breaking through her worries. It felt good to finally share my voice. I'm so proud of you. You should perform more often. The village loves you. Ifeoma exclaimed, wrapping her arms around Adaku in a warm embrace. You're our princess, and you deserve to be heard. Adaku's heart swelled at the support from her friend. I'm planning another performance soon, one that will truly reflect who I am. I can't wait. Let me help you. We can gather everyone to support you, Ifeoma began, her enthusiasm infectious. But before they could continue, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. Adaku turned to see King Okafor stepping onto the stage, his regal presence commanding immediate attention. The villagers quieted, their excitement shifting to apprehension as they anticipated what the king would say. "People of Enugu," King Okafor began, his voice resonating through the square. "I have come to address the events of today. While I appreciate the talent displayed here, I must remind you that our traditions are what bind us as a community. As your king, it is my duty to uphold the values that have sustained our lineage for generations." Adaku's heart sank. She could feel the tension in the air, an electric charge that signaled impending conflict. The king's gaze swept across the crowd, and for a brief moment, Adaku felt as though he was looking directly at her. "I have witnessed the talents of our youth, and I commend your efforts," he continued, his tone firm yet tinged with a hint of unease. "But I must also emphasize that there are limits to what is acceptable. We must not stray too far from our roots. A princess must remember her role and act accordingly." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, and Adaku's heart raced as she processed his words. Did he intend to silence her once again? The thought ignited a fire within her. She could feel the eyes of the villagers on her, some filled with support and others with skepticism. It was as if they were waiting for her response, expecting her to defend her position. The king's voice boomed again, pulling her back to the moment. "As your ruler, I cannot stand idly by while the honor of our family is put into jeopardy. There will be no more public performances without my explicit permission. I must protect our legacy." A gasp rippled through the audience, followed by a deep murmur of discontent. Adaku's heart raced. This was more than just an order, it felt like a direct attack on her freedom. She looked at Amadi, who was frowning, his jaw clenched in anger. "This is unacceptable," he murmured under his breath. "He can't control you like this. Everyone deserves a voice, including you," Adaku, Ifeoma added, her eyes wide with concern.